Stop the river! He bleeds!
Released in 1956, The Ten Commandments brought audiences to one of the most epic and classic works in Hollywood history. The story unfolds in ancient Egypt when Moses, the adopted prince of Pharaoh's court, discovers his true identity, a Hebrew slave oppressed. From a man living in luxury, he must face a harsh choice between the power of the palace and the mission to liberate his people. That journey is not only a rebellion of those in chains, but also a journey of faith, marked by earth-shattering miracles, the Nile turning to blood, the Red Sea parting, and the 10 plagues descending upon Egypt. The Ten Commandments is not merely a religious film, but a saga about faith, the desire for freedom, and the strength of human will against challenges. With its massive production scale, grand scenes, and renowned cast like Charlton Heston as Moses, Cecil B. DeMille's work became a golden milestone in world cinema. And do you know, behind that majestic exterior are countless strange backstage stories, from disputes over staging, the dangers of filming disaster scenes, to secrets never revealed during the filmmaking process. Join me to explore the most shocking and fascinating truths about the Ten Commandments, the masterpiece that turned Moses' journey into an immortal silver screen icon. 1. The director nearly lost his life falling from a ladder dozens of meters high on set. The filming scene of the Ten Commandments in 1955 was a colossal world in the desert, where thousands of extras crowded in vibrant costumes, scorching lights beaming down on burning sand. High above, Cecil B. DeMille, Hollywood's king of epics, stood firm on a 40-meter iron ladder, megaphone in hand, eyes observing every detail. At 73, when he should have been retired, he embraced the ambition to create the greatest work of his life. But in that moment of authority, his heart betrayed him. A severe chest pain made DeMille collapse, nearly falling off the ladder to the horror of the entire crew. They rushed him to the hospital, where the doctor sternly declared, "If you continue, you will die." But DeMille only gave a faint smile, saying he'd rather collapse on set than live in incompletion. And true to his word, just 2 days later, the aging director returned, his voice booming through the megaphone, commanding the cinematic army like a general who refused defeat. The shadow of death passed by, but it couldn't stop the raging ambition named the Ten Commandments. That boldness was ultimately rewarded, as the film became an immortal monument loved by millions of viewers. But if that story made the entire crew shudder, what was hidden in the mist of Egypt would haunt even more. 2. The chilling death angel scene due to a terrifying secret in the fog. Do you get chills watching the green mist slowly crawl across the Egyptian floor in the Ten Commandments like I do? In that moment, audiences fell into a creeping sense of death, a vague horror no one could explain. For hidden in that fog, DeMille and the technical team embedded a shocking detail, the image of a real human skull. No one in the theatre could point and say, "I see it," but the human eye unconsciously registered its cold outline. The result was fear spreading not from a clear image but from a subconscious dread. Audiences shuddered, their chests heavy hearing the echoing cries, because they were looking at death crafted from reality, not just cinematic effects. It was no longer a scene, but an experience touching the deepest instincts, where humans face death directly. And if a ghostly image could instill such dread, imagine the horror when the entire set faced a living, venomous creature. 3. A venomous snake escaped and turned the set into chaotic hell. In the Ten Commandments, snakes appear in many scenes as symbols of death and power. The set was thus no stranger to these fearsome creatures. But for DeMille, artificial effects were never enough. He wanted audiences to see real venom, for every frame to exude the danger of the Bible. And so, the crew decided to bring a live king cobra into the scene where Moses' staff turns into a snake. At first, it slithered slowly across the sand, scorching lights shining on its glossy scales, creating a chilling, breathtaking frame. Hundreds of eyes were glued to the deadly creature, awaiting an immortal cinematic moment. But tragedy struck unexpectedly. The cobra escaped control. It darted toward the camera, slithering through wires and blazing lights. In an instant, the set turned into hell. Screams echoed everywhere. Extras threw down props, crew members scrambled to escape. Some tripped, others nearly got tangled in the chaotic cables. Sweat, sand and fear mingled into an unprecedented chaos. It took nearly an hour to recapture the snake, restoring a fragile calm. From that moment, no one dared challenge Venom again. But when the danger passed, another secret emerged from the seemingly harmless popcorn ball. The terrifying hailstorm actually came from a familiar snack. Audiences in 1956 sat stunned in theaters as the hailstorm plague struck Egypt. The sky blackened, thunder tore through, and white chunks fell, blanketing Pharaoh's palace. Everyone believed they were witnessing heaven's wrath, an unprecedented cinematic miracle. But the truth behind that scene made many laugh. All those hailstones were just painted popcorn. The technical team, under pressure to create a grand disaster while keeping actors safe, came up with using popcorn. The light grains fell without causing pain, could be thrown at actors multiple times without injury. More importantly, after each take, the crew simply swept them up, gathered them and reused them. Combined with vibrant Technicolor lighting and layered thunder effects, harmless popcorn became the weapon of the gods. And if popcorn could make the world believe in miracles, wait to see what material created the Red Sea wonder. 5. The Red Sea miracle was built from an unexpectedly sticky material. The moment Moses raised his staff, the sea parted into two towering walls of water. Millions of viewers gasped, eyes glued to the screen. This scene went down in history, hailed as the pinnacle of cinematic wonders. But in reality, there were no computers, no CGI, only bold imagination and sticky material. The technical team built two giant tanks filled with water mixed with gelatin to thicken it, then released the liquid like a flood. When played in reverse, audiences saw the sea part, water standing as towering waves, dust rising as if blown by divine wind. 6 months of preparation, dozens of tests, all for a scene lasting less than 10 minutes. But that scene defined what a cinematic miracle is. And while audiences trembled before that grandeur, a cold decision backstage robbed the darling Audrey Hepburn of her chance. 6. Darling Audrey Hepburn was rejected for a single physical detail. Do you admire and love Audrey Hepburn, the epitome of Hollywood elegance, like millions worldwide? But behind that radiance, Hepburn tasted bitter rejection. When DeMille sought a face for Princess Nefertiri, her name was considered. Hepburn walked into the audition with clear eyes, a gentle smile, and a demeanour that silenced the room. But in DeMille's secret notebook, a cold note appeared. Lovely, but not enough figure. That not enough was a verdict on her slender frame. Her bust too small to fill the heavy, beaded and pearl-laden costumes the director wanted for a seductive, powerful queen. The role ultimately went to Anne Baxter, who had the sufficient figure to embody Egypt's desire and power. Hepburn quietly left, while outside, thousands of stone tablets bearing the 10 Commandments were erected across America. 7. Over 4,000 stone tablets across America unexpectedly became a historic lawsuit. No one in the 1950s could have imagined that a film promotion campaign would leave a legal legacy lasting half a century. Paramount and DeMille spent money erecting over 4,000 the 10 Commandments. Stone tablets across America, in parks, squares, even in front of courthouses and government buildings. For DeMille, it wasn't just promotion, but a statement. The 10 Commandments is the foundation of moral freedom. But those seemingly immovable stones became a spark for fierce controversy. Constitutional protection groups argued that they violated the principle of separation of church and state. In 2005, one such tablet in Texas was brought to the US Supreme Court, becoming a nationwide shock. The result? The tablet was allowed to stay for its cultural, not purely religious value. A film campaign unintentionally etched its name into American legal history. While those stones stood firm through the years, in California, a young metal band found inspiration to write an immortal song. 8. A casual movie viewing gave birth to Metallica's legendary song. In 1983, in a small California house, 3 Metallica guys crowded around a TV playing a VHS of the 10 Commandments. The screen's green glow lit their faces as the Death Angel scene played, the eerie mist crawling slowly, seeping into Egyptian homes, taking firstborn lives. Cliff Burton, the bassist, suddenly blurted, "It's like creeping death." That phrase was like lightning in the room. James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich instantly saw it as the seed for a new song. And from that spontaneous moment, Creeping Death was born. A track retelling the biblical plagues with thrash metal's fierce voice. On stage, thousands of fans screamed "Die, die" to the chorus, as if witnessing Egypt's plagues themselves. A 1956 film unwittingly planted the seed for a legendary 1984 song. While music stirred young hearts, in Hollywood, the Egyptian princess's face sparked an endless debate. 9. The Egyptian princess's face caused heated Hollywood controversy. When Anne Baxter appeared as Princess Nefertiri, the entire theatre fell silent. Her sharply lined eyes, fiery red lips, every sensual curve made viewers forget they were watching a biblical film. For DeMille, it was the perfect choice, a symbol of seduction, both alluring and dangerous. But for many conservative religious groups, it was an insult. They argued Baxter's sultry gaze and sly smile turned the character too worldly, breaking the sacredness of the Exodus story. The controversy swept Hollywood. Some praised Nefertiri as a new icon of sensuality. Others angrily called for a boycott. And that very divide inadvertently made the film even more famous. While the princess's face stirred public frenzy, backstage, another Egyptian plague was erased from the film. 10. A biblical plague was filmed, then lost forever. To recreate the 10 plagues on Egypt, DeMille spared no detail. He even staged a grand scene for the plague of frogs. Hundreds of live frogs were released into the palace, crawling over the throne, hopping chaotically on stone floors, creating the biblical chaos described. The scene took weeks to prepare, the crew enduring the stench and slimy spectacle. But when shown in test screenings, audiences laughed. They didn't feel fear, only amusement at the frogs' unintentionally comical poses. DeMille was stunned. A sacred plague had become a farce. With no choice, he cut the entire scene, letting it vanish forever from the final film. The 9th biblical plague became the 11th plague for the crew itself. Audiences never saw frogs on screen, but they were surprised by another strange detail: Moses' robe. 11. Moses' robe accidentally matched ancient historical records. Charlton Heston donned a red, black and white striped robe. A simple choice, DeMille thought, popped on Technicolor. But years later, religious scholars and archaeologists were stunned to realize those were the exact ceremonial colors of the Levite priests, the tribe Moses truly belonged to in the Bible. No one on the crew knew of this strange coincidence. To audiences, Moses stepped from the screen not just as a prophet, but as a vivid historical figure. The robe unintentionally made Heston an authentic Moses, blurring the line between cinema and myth. People wondered, was it mere chance, or was an unseen hand guiding? But while Moses wore a sacred robe, the real-life Pharaoh struggled to maintain his regal image before the camera. 12. The legendary Pharaoh secretly trained with weights to keep his throne on screen. It sounds unbelievable, but behind Pharaoh Ramesses' radiance, Yul Brynner carried a quiet fear: his modest physique. At only 1, 73 meters tall, he faced Charlton Heston, nearly 1.91 meters, muscular like a warrior. Brynner knew if he was overshadowed, the mighty Pharaoh image would collapse at first glance. So he threw himself into grueling training. Every day, Brynner could be seen in the gym, lifting heavy weights, doing pull-ups, forging every muscle as if preparing for battle. Soon, his toned physique and broad shoulders turned him into a symbol of power, equal to his rival. On screen, Ramesses was no longer a faint shadow, but a true pharaoh, both beautiful and fierce. That silent effort turned a role into legend. While props seemed to rest quietly in storage, years later, they were reborn in the future's cosmos. 13. Ancient Egyptian props unexpectedly appeared in Star Trek's space cosmos. Hundreds of silver goblets, intricately carved wine jars, and lavish golden censers that adorned Pharaoh's palace didn't vanish after filming ended. They were stored in Paramount's prop warehouse, lying dormant for decades. But fate drew a strange journey. Those ancient Egyptian items reappeared in Star Trek: The Next Generation, 1993. On TV screens, audiences saw 24th century astronauts drinking from the very goblets used in ancient Egypt on film. A bizarre extension of cinematic history from the Bible to Pharaoh to outer space. No one expected old props to become an invisible thread linking two legends. And while objects were reborn in the future, the film's miracles were crafted by entirely different hands. 14. Disney artists quietly stood behind the divine miracles. Few know that behind the Ten Commandments' divine scenes, from the fiery pillar tearing the sky to God's finger carving the tablets, was Disney's touch. Paramount secretly invited top animators from the world's most famous animation studio. They brought experience from Fantasia and other magical projects, combining real light with hand-layered techniques. The result was scenes beyond the 1950s imagination. Audiences saw fire blazing without consuming, glowing letters etched into stone as if by God's invisible hand. It wasn't just cinema, it was true magic. While divine miracles shone on screen, on set, a comical incident unexpectedly erupted, bringing laughter to the crew. 15. Filthy bald old man and a retort that made the entire set roar with laughter. In the Golden Calf Festival scene, hundreds of extras danced wearily under scorching lights, sweat soaking their glittering costumes. Amid the chaos, an actress blurted out, "When will that filthy bald old man let us break for lunch?" She thought her words would drown in the noise, but they rang clear through the microphone system. The entire set fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned to Cecil B. DeMille, the strict director known for thunderous rages. The air grew tense, everyone holding their breath, expecting a storm. But DeMille, with his shiny bald head, paused for a moment. Then, suddenly, he shouted, "Lunch!" A roar of laughter erupted across the set. In a rare moment, the crew realized even a stern master could turn himself into a jester. And as the laughter faded, another scene brought far deeper emotion. 16. Baby Moses floating on the Nile was Charlton Heston's real blood. Did you ever shudder watching the iconic scene of baby Moses in a basket floating on the Nile? That innocent face under Egypt's sun was Fraser Clark Heston, Charlton Heston's 3-month-old son. It wasn't just a role, but a strange fusion of cinema and bloodline. As the camera panned slowly, audiences saw a trembling, fragile child amid the waves. But for Heston, it was his flesh and blood embodying the legendary figure. He cradled his son after each take, eyes filled with pride and emotion. That moment became one of the film's most humane touches, where myth and reality merged. And before that emotion could fade, the crew dove into an exhausting sequence. 17. A 3-week scene exhausted the crew and sparked curses. The Golden Calf Festival was staged by DeMille as a frenzied feast. Overflowing wine, pounding music, hundreds of extras dancing and shouting for hours. But to recreate that madness, the crew filmed for 3 weeks straight, under scorching heat and blazing lights. Strength drained, sweat mixed with sand, vibrant costumes became burdens. Exhaustion built until some actors couldn't take it, muttering, "Who do you have to sleep with to get out of this film?" Forced laughter echoed in bitterness, reflecting the depletion the crew endured. On screen, audiences saw staged frenzy. In reality, that frenzy eroded human strength. As people barely recovered from exhaustion, a supernatural phenomenon sparked an inexplicable chill. 18. A mysterious white figure appeared, then vanished in the Egyptian desert. The sun poured scorching heat on the set. Hundreds of extras crowded in heavy costumes. Amid the sea of people, some crew members swore they saw a white-robed figure standing silently in the golden sand. The shape stood still for a while, then vanished before their eyes as if it never existed. Rumours spread quickly. Some swore it was a ghost. Others believed it was a guardian in the sand sent to witness the film. Though just a rumour, the event sowed a vague chill, as if an unseen hand watched every scene. While the white figure remained a mystery, another truth rang with power from Charlton Heston's own lips. 19. The voice from the burning bush was actually Moses's on screen. In the scene where Moses kneels before the burning bush, audiences hear God's voice, resonant, warm, divine. Everyone thought it was an anonymous actor chosen to embody God's voice. But the shocking truth, it was Charlton Heston himself. To create the effect, technicians lowered his voice, extended its echo, making Moses seem to hear and converse with his own soul. This bold choice pushed the scene beyond ordinary limits, turning it into a spiritual experience haunting audiences. The line between human and divine blurred as Moses and God spoke from one body. While myth shone on screen, backstage, an unknown figure quietly began a journey to musical legend. 20. A music legend began his career as an anonymous drummer. In the Golden Calf festival scene, amid the frenzied crowd, a 21-year-old sat in a stage corner, hands beating a drum to the rhythm. The camera barely grazed his back. No credit recorded his name. Yet that young man was Herb Alpert, who later became a legend with the Tijuana Brass. From an anonymous extra, Alpert stepped into the music world, playing the trumpet and earning dozens of awards, creating a vibrant new chapter in American culture. Few know, it all began from a fleeting moment on the Ten Commandments set. A film not only created cinematic wonders, but sowed seeds for legends in entirely different fields. The Ten Commandments, 1956, is a cinematic masterpiece that transcended time, becoming an immortal icon of Hollywood epics. The film not only recreates one of the Bible's most sacred stories, but unveils unprecedented grand scenes. Every frame brings awe, both majestic and deeply humane. Over half a century later, the work still leaves global audiences marveling, admiring, and reverent. If you find these backstage truths fascinating, give the video a like and share it for others to discover. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss the next shocking cinematic stories.